Good afternoon. A recent Harvard study shows that since the year 2000, 52% of the companies in the Fortune 500 have gone bankrupt, been acquired, or simply no longer exist due to digital disruption. That same study shows that the collision between the digital and physical worlds has had a profound impact on every aspect of society, commerce, and day-to-day life. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us a bit of what we already know. Disruption is real, it is very powerful, and businesses have learned that it is disrupt or be disrupted. Disruption has become synonymous with companies such as Uber, Netflix, and Airbnb. But what is it? At its very core, it is when a product or service is able to take hold in a small, niche, or undesirable portion of the market. By focusing on customers' needs and fulfilling those needs, it's able to build scale, build scope, and disrupt the greater industry. Incumbents are forced to adapt and react. With this framework and these principles in mind, we have identified a market within our industry that is ripe for disruption, along with the opportunity for the CPG companies and the retailers in the room today to play value-creating offense while playing critical defense to our greater businesses. We are Downtown Solutions. This is Sean Hurriott with Albertsons, Tim Mannix with ShopRite, Sandy Martinez with Food for Less, David Butterworth with Niagara Bottling. I am Aaron Carlton with King Soopers, and combined we have 77 years of experience in the food industry. And we're going to be speaking to you today about opportunities, recommendations, and solutions surrounding the urban market. As you will see in this video behind me, and as I'm sure most of you know from your own markets, cities across the United States are growing at a tremendous rate. Along with that, they're seeing a huge influx of population from specific demographics. Those demographics have needs that are not being fully met. That is the opportunity to play great offense. In addition to this, these markets are unique when compared to our greater industry. Lifestyle, parking, transportation, real estate, housing, share of stomach are all challenging to operate when compared to our greater industry. Lastly, you have other countries that have experienced this same growth for quite some time now and continue to experience it today. They are looking at solving these problems for their consumers in very big ways. They have leapfrogged us in terms of their use of technology and their application of it to provide their consumers with a true omni-channel solution. It would not be difficult for them to move into the United States, into one of these markets, build scale, build scope, and disrupt the industry. That is the need to play great defense. By the end of the presentation today, we're going to ask you for a $7 million investment in a 20-store profit network. This network will meet the needs of these consumers, grow new market share, and increase revenue in upwards of $80 million year over year. From the very beginning of this process, we have looked at solutions and recommendations with the customer in mind. With that, you're going to see three short stories today on how consumers could interact with our recommendation, the residential market, or Resi for short. And with that, we're going to show you what that could look like.
So I want you all to imagine yourself in a dense downtown urban area. You need to do your grocery shopping, but you're not looking forward to it. You don't have a car, so you can't pull right up into the parking lot, load up your groceries, and go home. You don't want to walk down the busy city street lugging 10 bags. You don't want to take it on the subway. But what if you could walk right into your apartment building and shop for your groceries? What if you could walk down from your office building and pick up your groceries and take them home? Now envision yourself walking into your apartment building, and at first you think that it's a convenience store. It's about 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. But then you notice something a little different. You see all the fresh and perishable items that are offered at the center of the store. You smell the prepared foods. On the far bank, you see a bank of lockers where you can have all of your center store items delivered. You can pick them up and take them right up into your apartment. It's about creating a customer-centric solution. It's about getting back to the basics of what we do best, creating an additional channel for CPGs to sell their products, and an additional channel for all of the retailers to get closer to their customers. Now, let's hear about a customer's experience with the residential market, or Resi for short.
So, I'm a millennial. My friends and I have all recently graduated college, and we've congregated to the same downtown city area because we love the work and play function. It's my buddy's turn to make dinner tonight. My job to get the groceries. Psh, easy. He has a resi in his building. I simply place my order on my mobile application and go pick up the groceries only 3 blocks away. It's as simple as that. But what exactly am I getting at here? Well, urban population is growing, and it's anticipated to continue to grow and outpace both rural and suburban through 2050. But what's really driving this urban growth? Well, employment. Businesses are relocating to cities to meet their employees' needs. Social. Younger generations require 24/7 walkable amenities. And living. Less space is now more for someone living in an apartment. Urban areas are expected to experience exponential growth from not just millennials, but Generation Z and baby boomers in the foreseen future. This is a major opportunity to capture that market share. Grocers must offer fresh, convenient, small solutions in order to meet this influx of population that is occurring in these densely populated areas. But as many of you know, operating in the urban environment is unique. With it come not only your challenges, but also your opportunities. The consumer is incredibly different. They have different lifestyles. They shop differently, they drive less, but also the costs are significantly higher. Real estate can be 3 times that of operating in a non-urban environment. You also have higher labor costs, as well as higher shrink. Overall, we view this as a major opportunity for both manufacturers as well as retail operators to recapture this loss of share of stomach that has been occurring from time to time. This share of stomach that has been taken from your convenience stores, your restaurants, and your various other food outlets. So in terms of opportunities, what's one opportunity that we identify? Well, the real estate is currently prime. Apartment dwellers increased in 2017, and it's anticipated to continue to increase in the foreseen future. Additionally, you have new customers that are entering this market segment. The apartment and condo construction is expected to continue to increase at 4.9% annualized over the next 5 years. From all this construction that's occurring in these cities, including office, apartment, and various other industrial type properties, you have a massive influx of available ground floor retail space. As a result of this ground floor retail space that is coming to your market, rental rates are significantly lower than they've been in years past. This is ultimately improved profitability for food operators. Developers are out there seeking food operators such as yourself. Finally, and most importantly, the demand is there. In a recent downtown LA survey, the most requested service was not only food and not only small format, but a small format grocery retail to the area. The demand is there. So how are we proposing that you solve this demand? Well, aggregation is necessary. As you'll notice in the image behind me, the congestion of the downtown LA apartment market that is currently existing. This has created an influx of vertical housing, resulting in vertical food deserts. And this isn't just happening in downtown LA. This is happening in cities across the US. Your Austins, your Bostons, your Brooklyns, your Dallases, Denvers, all across. In a recent downtown LA commercial real estate firm issued the statement that you have roughly 5,000 to 15,000 square feet of available retail space all across all these apartment buildings. So we are proposing an aggregation strategy that not only reduces costs, but maximizes synergies and increases and creates what we're referring to as our profit network. Now you'll see behind me what our proposed solution is. This is our vision. In yellow, you'll notice the 20 or so satellite stores located in the congested downtown LA area. Together, they work as a network. Finally, you'll notice our larger blue hub store. This is our fulfillment center that also acts as retail. Again, together, the satellite stores as well as the hub stores reduce costs, maximize synergies, and create that profit network. And now I'm going to pass it on to another member of our group, and she's going to tell us about her experience with the resi.
So I work full-time, and I'm a full-time mom, so time is critical to me. I was on a recent trip to China, and I saw these large complexes, business parks, apartment complexes, with small formatted grocery stores at the bottom, and I thought, wow, how convenient would that be? I wish they had that in the US. So let's move forward 6 months, and I'm in downtown looking for an apartment. I was so excited, I thought, let me find an apartment with the grocery store. Well, lo and behold, I found what I was looking for. I got an apartment with a grocery store at the bottom, and it's called the Resi, and I love it. It's so convenient. I can do a full week shop for my family. I can order my perishable items by walking in and getting them, picking them up, or I can order online my center store items. It is so exciting to have this. I've tried other options before. Delivery, perishable isn't good. You've got limp lettuce. How am I going to order a steak and have my husband cook it on the grill? it's not doable. But the Resi, they have that solution for me. Well, as you heard in my story, retailers outside the United States are finding new ways with technology to address the urban markets. Facial recognition and augmented reality are just a few of the technologies that retailers are using. We're really excited to know that they're also using frictionless checkout, and they're causing seamless deliveries. We need that here in the US. We feel that the Resi can provide that option for us. When we talk about e-commerce, let's talk about e-commerce. We all know it's growing, right? It's rapid. It's everywhere. However, the omni-channel can deliver what they cannot, e-commerce. E-commerce cannot deliver fresh. It cannot deliver convenient to the consumer, but the omni-channel can. And with the omni-channel, the Resi has it down. Now I would like to turn it over to another perspective for the Resi in the workplace.
As a working professional in a downtown area, I first heard about these Resi stores from the folks at the front desk of my office building. I was surprised to hear that 20 of them had recently opened up within just a few miles of where we stood. They assured me that these stores would have everything I need at fair prices in a fast, convenient, and fun way. I must admit, I was skeptical at first. How could a store this size have everything I need, have fair prices, and still be a profitable business model in this type of market? Well, let me tell you, after visiting the Resi store and seeing everything it has to offer, I came to a couple realizations. Customer buying behaviors in this market are truly beginning to change. And yes, the Resi is the solution for grocery in the future in urban areas. So how are customer buying behaviors changing? Customers today are looking for specific things, and there are specific generations that are coming into these markets. You see Generation Z and millennials and boomers moving to these urban markets at rapid rates. And with that, they are bringing very specific needs. They are looking for natural, organic, and fresh items, and they're not willing to pay the premium for them that they used to pay. They are looking for new and exciting items they can take home and share with their friends and family. They are looking for social meal solutions, such as meal kits or home delivery options. They are shopping much more frequently, but their basket sizes are getting smaller and smaller. And ultimately, they are looking for convenience. Convenience is perhaps the most important thing to the shoppers today that are coming to these urban markets. So what does that tell us? It tells us that any solution that we come together for in these markets must be adaptable to meet these customers' needs. And that's exactly what we envision the Resi to be. The Resi markets will have targeted assortments by location to meet the needs of the customers who live and work in these areas. Digging deeper into further customer buying behaviors, you come across some really interesting statistics. Roughly 1,700 items make up 50% of the sales in your traditional grocery store. Think about that when compared to how many items we actually have in a grocery store. This surprising fact gives further evidence that a small format store that focuses on fresh offerings and rises to meet the customer needs for products really is the way to go in an urban area. But the question remains, is it a profitable solution? And the answer to that question is yes. But it comes with a catch. It can't be based off the profitability of a one-store network. It needs to be based off the profitability of 20 stores, 15 stores, 25 stores, whatever it works out to be for in your market to be a profitable measure, because you need the aggregation to build the scale and the scope for the sales and all the other savings through the synergies you'll see. So with just a $7 million initial investment, one retailer in one downtown market can expect to see up to upwards of $80 million a year annually in sales by the 5th year. But these are new sales. These are sales that give the opportunity for the retailers and the manufacturers together to take back share of stomach in the urban market. In addition, the retailers will see reduced costs in regards to shrink and labor and rental expenses, three of the biggest opportunities we face today in an urban market. And yes, it will be a profitable business model. By the 5th year of operations, one retailer in one downtown market can expect to see an additional $6 million a year to the bottom line. I think everybody in this room would agree they'd love to have an additional $6 million a year to their bottom line. With that, we are now going to talk a little bit more about how the Resi really is the downtown solution.
So I want to invite you all back into our story. Imagine yourself in your boardrooms, you're planning for the future. You're looking 5, 10 years out, and you're trying to adapt your strategy to the changing market. You've been doing this your entire career, but potentially the pace at which you're being asked to adapt to change is increasing. The way that we see it is that those firms out there that are going to boldly grasp those changes and act are going to be best positioned to take advantage of additional market share in the future. What we've talked about today is that we have identified a niche market that is potentially being underserved currently. And so we need to find solutions that are going to target this market. But first, we need to understand what's going on. Within this marketplace, you have people who are shopping differently, have different sets of expectations. We also know that there are very unique operating costs associated with the downtown urban areas of our country. What we need to do is make sure that our solutions are targeted to those problems. Additionally, there is a large threat of entry. International markets have been dealing with dense urban populations for far longer than we have, and they've adapted their retail solutions to these markets. Because they've already adapted to these markets, they have some solutions in terms of technology that we're not currently leveraging here, but that's going to have to change. So when we look at this market and what we can potentially do, and our solution, the residential market, or Resi, is going to take advantage of an aggregation strategy and proximity to the customer. We know that we have to get back to the basics. Additionally, you're not going to be able to just tailor your solution to an e-commerce solution. It's truly going to have to be providing a platform for customers to purchase what they want, when they want, and how they want. And the omnichannel would be best served in this market by a small network of stores similar to the residential market. So what are we asking for today? We're asking for a $7 million investment in a 20-store network of small, profitable stores, generating upwards of $80 million of new sales, capturing additional market share, and putting the customer back in the focus. What we're going to have to do next is we're going to go home to our individual markets, and we're going to talk to brokers. We're going to talk to real estate developers, and we're going to find opportunities to partner with them. Here in LA, we've actually already spoken to a broker who is interested in this solution, primarily because his customers are interested in this solution. They have a growing need for grocery retail because of the growing vertical food deserts that exist in our cities today. Additionally, this is a platform for the future. It is a scaffolding on which you can build out additional technologies and more profitably test them in specific markets. We really do see this as being a great opportunity, not just for retailers, but also for the CPG companies in the room, because it is creating an additional channel for them, as well as proximity to the customer in a partnership that we clearly already have. We are the Downtown Solutions, and we are now open for any questions.
I have a supply chain question. So serving the downtown market is obviously very expensive. Curfews, tickets, congestion. So what thought did you give as a group to how you could make accommodations to DSD suppliers or your own network in order to keep costs down from a delivery perspective in this model?
So part of our solution in terms of the distribution network is really focused around the hub store. We envision that incorporating some aspect of vertical automation. From a pure DSD standpoint, the delivery through that hub store would probably be the most efficient way. not only do we see that as being the delivery fulfillment, but also store stocking fulfillment as well. Really gaining that aggregation through a centralized distribution is how we see driving those costs down and sufficiently servicing the market.
Hey, great work. I would just ask a little bit of piggyback on what Matt said. So you talked about the apartment condo buildings being up 4.9% on average over the next 24 months. Which markets did you see were the most impacted in terms of growing higher than that 4.9?
I can't speak directly to an individual market. However, prior to getting into the supermarket industry, I worked in commercial real estate banking for 3 years. And there was overall most markets, I would say certain markets were experiencing significantly higher growth, whether it was Denver or those cities that you hear every day, whether it's Portland. On average, it was around 4.9%, and that's projected for the next 5 years. I would say the initial 24 months was actually higher, more around closer to 10% in terms of apartment and construction growth. And from that, you just have a significant influx of ground floor retail that, to be honest, a lot of developers are still juggling with what to do with. And that, it allows for a tremendous opportunity for yourself as food operators.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the drug channel evolves with more food offerings, how will the Resi differentiate itself within the metro areas?
I think, and this is obviously a new environment with the drugstores coming into the grocery game, so to speak, with the recent, we have Albertsons, Rite Aid thing, right? I think we're talking about a much smaller, fresh-focused format that you wouldn't see today in a drug market with the produce and some meat and produce and dairy. And it's going back to our core competencies in terms of what we do as grocery retailers and how we can win in that area.
Seems like in some of these areas, the assortment or the diversity of the consumer base would be difficult to meet. Beyond just kind of your core assortment, but beyond that, did you see any challenges just meeting the diverse consumer base?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, it ties back to the fact that we've got tremendous amounts of data, and it's a targeted demographic that's moving to these areas. And on balance, it allows us as retailers to micro-personalize the assortment and SKU rationalization from the smaller satellite or Resi stores. So those are going to be limited holding power, limited SKU count, and then the hub store will be able to fulfill the center store items. But it's the buying behavior and the consumer behavior that allows us to properly SKU rationalize for that.
Nice presentation, thank you. Is your vision for the Resi store that it does do delivery out of the store? And if so, does that change the economics of your model, or is it purely a customer visit the store location?
So we see it as being sort of twofold in that regard. The proximity to the customer will really allow people to walk in, pick up their groceries from the lockers, shop some of their perishable items, and take it home, as well as an amenity to the individual building or office park that it's in. So that service can somewhat be tied into the rental structure. Additionally, we don't really see delivery fulfillment in the way that we see it today coming out of these smaller stores. We see it more so being localized to both the building and to the neighborhood around, as well as for walk-ins, but not as a true delivery fulfillment, someone walking the small format store, picking items, and then walking a couple blocks or driving a couple blocks.
Hi, I'm curious about the $7 million investment for 20 locations. Does that include equipment, decor? Tell us how you got to that number.
Yeah, so the initial investment, based on the research I've done and we've done as a team and talking with some of the folks within our own companies, the buildings aren't going to be purchased, and they're already going to be built because the retail space is there through the office space and through the apartment buildings and things of that nature. And took the square footage that we're projecting and used numbers from a few different companies to about $200 a square foot roughly to forecast that out based on the square footage to come up with a lump sum number to start with. And then we included the rental expense as an ongoing expense, obviously, that increases at about 2.5% per year, but that's built into the years, not into the initial investment, if that answers the question. And through the automation piece, the good chunk of that expense is coming for that one store that'll have the automation for the fulfillment of the orders to the smaller stores.
You know, Team Downtown Solutions, this is real what you're talking about. I like this concept. I have a young lady with me she lives in Phoenix, she works in New Jersey, and in all of these big cities, we see this growth in high-rise lofts, apartment building, condominiums. I mean, just look at downtown LA. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, and the skyline in LA is nothing like what I grew up in. And so this is real. So I'm starting to think, okay, who are you proposing this to? Is it this body of retailers that are good at big sort of format stores? Are you thinking more of the convenience channel and getting them to now convert their philosophies in terms of just offering snacks and stuff like that? Or are you proposing this to a body of investors that are going to start a whole new sort of chain? Who are you presenting to?
That's a great question, and it kind of ties into how we identified the recommendation and solution to begin with. Starting with the customer in mind, we really took down all the barriers. And this would be proposed to the retailers in the room or the larger retailers in the room, and it would also be proposed to, or it is feasible for a startup or entrepreneurial aspect. But the convenience store, that brings up an interesting point because they're already in the space, and there's nothing saying that they don't have the ability to transform some of their stores and capture some of this market. We do it infinitely better than they do today, but we need to be the first movers to be able to capture that market share.
So that's a threat now to those people in the store.
Correct. The convenience stores taking on this business. Absolutely, that's a key part of our.
Yeah, it's not just from an international standpoint, but also, with a lot of the disruption that we see currently in the market, whether you're talking Alibaba or you're talking Amazon, you're talking companies that are not traditional grocers that are trying to play in this space, right? So I'm going to take your bait, and I'll talk about Amazon a little bit. It is the monster in the room. People are talking about it. They're concerned about what they're trying to do. But what they don't do, that we all do very well, is service customers and put an emphasis on fresh. When it comes to the way that they deliver to their customers, we don't feel that they've nailed it down, but we know that they will eventually. They're going to keep plugging away at it. But if we can get proximity to the customer and put them at the center of any solution, then we know that we can profitably service them. And we know that that solution can come from the people in the room. Yes, it could come from a convenience store, but it's not their core competency. Yes, it could come from Amazon, but they're still figuring it out. I think the people in the room are actually best positioned to take advantage of this market that is not quite being serviced proficiently enough right now.